Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I am here with Doris Jackson Shazier. Hi, Doris.
Hey, Angela. How's it going?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you today because I think we're going to have a really, really good conversation about the mother-daughter relationship, which I think is so key. So Doris Jackson Shazier is an accomplished ICF accredited coach, author, and speaker with over 2 decades of experience specializing in organizational growth and empowering others to create high accountability, high morale environments in their home and workplace. Doris is also a dedicated wife and mother of 4, committed to teaching the values of love, grace, and forgiveness. That's amazing. I love this so much. So let me first ask, so you're an author and you've written a book. Tell me about the book.
I have. So the name of my book is Raising Justice. And I mean, the meaning of the title is quite literal. My first child, her name is Justice.
Okay, good. Easy.
And so it kind of tells the story of me raising her. Now, the title does have a dual meaning. So part of it is literal. I'm raising justice. The other part of it is like a part of a movement and what it means to actually raise justice. And really, it's the pursuit of parenting in a way that you weren't parented. So how do you then instill or parent or nurture a child in a way that maybe you didn't observe or experience? And so I am kind of asking people to come along with me to kind of raise justice. Like, how do we, again, together create a better life for our children or parent them from a way that we didn't necessarily experience?
Yes. Because so many times when I talk to people, they say, well, I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to be mine was not a good example. And then they lean on that as an excuse to not do better. And so I love that you're intentional about like, hey, I may not have seen or experienced this, but we can do better as parents and we can raise a better generation. So I think that's amazing. Yes.
Oh, I love the way you just recapped it. So yeah, that's what kind of raising justice is. It's like, okay, we didn't get it. We didn't get the handbook. We didn't get to see it at home.
Sure.
But in the book, you really kind of hear, it's not a perfection guide. It's not a parenting guide, but you really get to hear transparent thoughts about the challenges that I face and what it was like to suspend judgment and to pause and not react to certain situations that maybe I would have reacted differently if I was like my grandmother.
Sure.
Or I wouldn't have had the conversation because certain conversations weren't allowed when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I love to tell people how it begins and how it ends because the meat of it really is in the beginning. You find me as a 19-year-old, first generation college student. I'm pregnant in a relationship that I know I'm not going to continue. And this book really begins outside of an abortion clinic. So it is the story that almost didn't happen.
Wow.
And then I go on to raise a 19-year-old college graduate. So at the same age I was contemplating pregnancy, I had the fortunate opportunity to watch that child walk across the collegiate stage, blocks away from where I was young, confused in college, and almost did not have her.
Wow.
It's a powerful testimony, of resiliency, of love, of how in raising justice, God really raised me. And so I'm just on a mission to kind of share with others a couple of things that we all can raise justice. And then also I like to share with people about this book. It is that motherhood was my first real leadership position.
Wow.
And how the skills that I learned as a mother, I was able to transition into the workforce. And I think sometimes we don't think about it that way, or I think the workforce wants us to believe that being a parent or being a mom sometimes makes us a liability.
Yeah.
And I'm here to say we're not a liability at all. We get so much development and skills and everything just in being moms that you might want to tap a mom on your shoulder if you want your business ran right.
Yes, exactly. Well, because we've learned how to deal with, obstacles and challenges. I mean, how many times are we challenged by our children on a daily basis, right?
Exactly. Or
So,
creating a budget and
yeah,
time management.
right.
And we cook, clean,
Yes.
nurture, like we're
Hmm.
counselors, Ubers, like we do it
Hmm.
all.
We really are. Yes, absolutely. And I have not been blessed with a daughter, and I think that that's kind of it's a blessing and a curse. I would have loved to raise a daughter, but at the same time, I have an amazing son and I'm so grateful for him. But I think to myself all the time, like, gosh, what if I had a daughter? Because I was not the easiest child to raise. I'm just being honest. I was not an easy daughter to raise. I challenged my mother constantly, and I look at my son, and he's like so even keeled, and like there's never drama, and I'm like, golly,
You
like
want
I
that?
was not this way when I was growing
Yeah.
up.
Daughters definitely are sometimes our reflection. So I
Hmm.
would say, thank God I was a pretty good child.
Yes.
So my daughter, she definitely has that of me. But all those little nuances and things that I have, to be honest with you, they show up in your daughter. Like you
Yeah.
really can see yourself better
Uh-huh.
through your daughter. But also another thing that you really get to see is your mom. Like
Yeah.
you start to understand them better. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh
oh,
yeah.
that's why she felt that way. Because now I
Right.
see what it feels like. So you
Yes.
definitely get to understand your mom a little bit better when you have a daughter too.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, because there's so many times where I've walked in, I'm like, okay, mom, I'm sorry
Yeah.
because I know what you felt like right now. Because like when I tell my son about curfews and, accountability and all of these things and things that I used to push back on with my mom. And,
Yeah.
I'm thankful that my son doesn't push back a whole lot, but the worry that you feel, the sickness when they don't check in at exactly the time you need them to check in, like that just constantly. And I just never thought about it, when I was a kid and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay at my friend's house. And I would just call him like, I'm staying here. And like and she's just had to trust the process. There were not cell phones. There was not,
Oh
Life
yeah, they had to
360.
be very much so much more trusting. Like we have
Yes.
all type of apps and things to kind of help
Yes.
us.
Yep. Hmm.
I can't. I don't know how she did it. Like I don't
Yeah.
know how my grandmother did it. Like
No, I completely agree. I don't know that I would have survived that generation of
yeah, that time period. Yeah.
parenting. Yes, but yes, I love that you wrote a book about it because and what's your I just gotta ask, what's Justice think?
Justice was so proud of the book. So I had
Oh,
the fortune, we did a big book launch and we had about 50 people that showed up and we talked about it. And she was asked that question. And
sure.
so she says, I'm so proud of my mom. And I was
Oh,
like, oh, because it's something amazing about hearing your child say that they're proud of
yes.
you. And
Yes.
she said that she felt honored. She's like, I feel honored
Oh,
to have a book written about me. And she says, and much like the reader, she was learning a little bit about herself too, because some of those things she didn't even remember.
wow.
Because she was 4 or 5 years old when we had these experiences. And so she feels very honored by it. And so now I've been tasked with I just recently announced that this book is the beginning of a series because
Oh,
I
very
am a
cool.
mother of four. And
Yeah.
so my three sons are like, where's
Hey,
our
what
book?
about me?
And I'm like, I haven't really thought about that. But once
Yes.
I did process it, what's interesting is because of how my kids are spread out, I'm a different kind of mom with each one of them. So I was that 19-year-old mom with her, and I grew up. But then I have a child right now. So she's 20 years old now.
Uh-huh.
I have a child that is 17 and he is a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I'm like a public defender for him. Like every time I turn around, I'm somewhere pleading his case,
Yeah.
you know. And then I have an 11-year-old who just went to
Hmm.
sixth grade, and I'm a different kind of parent with him. And then I have a 5-year-old that just went to kindergarten.
Wow. Wow.
And so I get a different experience with him. I get to be the young, cool parent sometimes with Justice. Like
Yeah.
I get mistaken for her sister. Like it's amazing. And then I have the 5-year-old that some days I feel like, what was I thinking, at this age?
Uh-huh.
And I'm here
Uh-huh.
at a kindergarten in orientation, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
this is raising Justice, but there will be a raising Dion, a raising Dorian, and a raising Davion. And each one, I will attack different issues and different experiences in motherhood because I think I can relate to a lot of different women at different stages of their life. And then how do I apply those learnings
Mm.
into other areas? So I think it's going to be really nice and more to come.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. And I love that you've included all of your children in that. I think that's a really, really special thing for each of them and for you. And something that, documents their life. And how
Mhm.
amazing would that be for a child to say, this book is about me and my mother and our relationship and how we've grown together. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I've committed. So I'm like, wow, this other kid is like 17. So it's like I probably got a 2-year span on him. I got
Right.
to get it all out.
Hmm.
I got a little bit longer on the other ones, but they
Yeah.
already have interesting stories.
No, that's beautiful. Well, good for you for being able to even remember them, because I look back and sometimes and you were saying about Justice not remembering some things when she was younger. Like yesterday, we did our first college tour with my son,
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, do you remember so and so as our neighbor? And, they go to this school, and he's like, who? And I'm like, how do you not remember our neighbors? You played with them. We went on like vacations. Well, I don't remember who they are. Like, how is that possible?
yeah, no, they don't remember it all. I think for
Yes.
her, she was like just as interested in the
Yes.
story, and she read the whole book. We went through as I finished chapters, and I let her be a part of the editing process. Because
Oh,
especially as she got older, I wanted to make sure that the story felt true to her,
yeah.
experience. And so she was like, "Mom, you remember that?" And she's like, "I vaguely remember we were in a car that day." And I'm like, "No, I remember that conversation. It really stuck with me. I had an
Yeah.
aha moment in that conversation for her. We were just riding in the car talking."
Wow, that's amazing. So sometimes, it's funny because I have a psychology degree, and every once in a while I'll try to like dig into like my son's like psyche, and I'm like, so honey, if you ever go to counseling one day, what will you tell them that I did? That
Like,
that
what are you
that
healing
like
from? Like,
like
everybody
what
has
are you
something they're
healing
healing from.
from? What did I do? And I like tell me now so I can try to fix it. I don't want you to like, go into adulthood and be like, I wish my mom had blah, blah, blah. And I was like, because I think we all deal with some kind of childhood trauma, whether that, my mom was an amazing mom, but she worked a lot, lot, lot. And so, like, for me, that caused some trauma just in feeling like, I had to be like super hyper independent, and I still carry that with me.
Yeah,
And so, whatever it is, and even if you have a great parent, sometimes you deal with childhood trauma, even in their best intentions,
yeah,
they've caused something in you that has, maybe impacted how you do things in the future. So I
yeah.
asked him, like, what is it that I'm going to create? What is going to cause you to go to counseling? I just want to know that now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I love that you just have that realization. I think I
Uh-huh.
came to that. It's like there is no perfect parent.
Correct.
They will grow up and form their own opinions about their lives, and there will be something, who knows
Mm-hmm.
what the something is.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of mine may have a different something. The 5-year-old lives a life that's nothing like what
Right.
2-year-old live. And so, but I'm like, he's gonna find something too. So I think
Sure.
as parents, we kind of have to realize that we're doing our best out here. They may
Mm-hmm.
eventually found something. I found out mine with justice, and I talk about it in the book in mental health versus mental toughness. I had
Mm.
focused so much on being mentally tough that I didn't create enough space sometimes to be vulnerable. And
Oh,
so it was one of those things that I didn't teach, but she caught it. And I realized that not everything is taught. Some things are caught. Like they just catch
yeah.
on to it. And because she saw me always being strong and overcoming, she didn't realize that I was crying in the shower because I
Mm.
didn't cry in front of them. Like I didn't give them that part of the story. And now I'm a lot more open about that because I
Yeah.
want them to know it's balance. And I want them to know that sometimes we break down before we step up. And it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it is okay. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
love that phrase. I love that you just said some things are caught and not taught, because it's so true. I mean, sometimes we don't realize what we're doing, but our kids do, because they see us as the version of us that we show them.
Yeah.
And so, and we think we're able to hide a lot of things, but they're
We're not.
more observant than we give them credit for.
Definitely.
Hmm. So tell me, when you started writing this book, were you in the corporate world then?
So I started writing this book when she was about 5 or 6 years old. I
Wow.
started journaling this book for a
Good for
very long time.
you.
I've actually always wanted to be an author,
Okay.
and I just was too busy.
Yeah.
Again, I spent the last 20 years in corporate, several different positions where I moved up from, I started in retail restaurants, store
Hmm.
manager to district manager to, a regional VP role and then to a senior director role. So yeah,
Wow.
I was a pretty busy, traveled very often, but I would journal these experiences and I always knew I would write the book. And so when I took my exit from corporate America, it's been about almost 18 months now.
Okay.
And I decided that I wanted to leave and build the life that I really wanted and build a career that I really wanted. And so I've started 10 books and never finished one. So I've had
Wow.
the ideas, I've had the concepts. So turning this into a series now takes me to 13.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it's always been something I've been passionate about. I just never took the time to really cultivate it. And so once I kind of was liberated,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I decided to focus in on it. And really the editing process and taking it to finalization probably took me three and a half, 4 months because
Okay.
I had a lot of the details already.
Right. And that's important. And I think that's beautiful that you
Mhm.
started writing it so young because that's one of the hardest things is trying to reflect back. Like, I wish I had done more journaling. I wish I had, taken the time to write down my thoughts and my feelings in the moment because trying to reflect back is really challenging.
Yeah, especially as you add on different experiences, more children. Like now that I've committed to a series in this book, I've already taken out a journal for all of them and
Good.
got back to some of my writing. I had already been writing certain things, but now
Mm,
I'm becoming more disciplined in capturing certain moments that I'll be able to use later.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So, what's the hardest part about writing?
Uh, the hardest part is just doing it
Yeah.
because it's so easy to be distracted.
Yes.
Now that again I'm a full-time entrepreneur,
Hmm.
I have more autonomy over my time, so I schedule it. So now it's just a matter of you have the time in your day, you've already blocked it out where you don't have any appointments. Now you just need to focus and do it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so the hardest part is just making yourself focus and do it because man, you'll get easily distracted.
Yes. Well, you're exactly right. There's always something, right? Like there's a never-ending list of things that you could be doing, and
Yep.
I tend to procrastinate on those things that I should be doing, and then I fill in my time with things that are not as important. And I don't understand that. It's some kind of thing that I've got to get through. It's a block. But yeah, that's it's a difficult thing to have that discipline.
Yes, it is.
So in your coaching practice, you actually teach people high accountability, high morale environments.
Uh-huh.
So how do you instill that high accountability in others?
Well, what I really do is I teach others how to kind of like what you described, how to align what you really want with your
Mm.
actions. Because sometimes
Hmm.
we really want something, but our actions don't necessarily reflect that. And
Right.
so I help them to create strategies and systems that align better with what they truly want.
Hmm.
And then I kind of, as a coach, I am a partner. I can kind of serve as an accountability partner in terms of I am there to, remind, help reflect, help to cultivate realizations so that they can stay aligned with the things that they really, really want. So yeah, I use a couple strategies and partner with them, meet with them on a regular basis, and really keep their goals top of mind and have them to align their actions with it.
Yeah, that's key because I'm terrible at that. Like I'll tell you I need to do these 5 things this week, and then it'll be Thursday, and my coach will check in with me and say, "So, how are you coming along with the list?" And I'm like, about the list. That might be the same list next week.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like you gotta make it a thing. And so I'm
And
trying
sometimes I
to,
help them create urgency because
that's good.
sometimes we need help with prioritizing things. I'll give you an example. For me, I've known I want to be an author almost my whole life. I started writing my first book at about 15 years old, and it wasn't necessarily a priority for me. Fast forward to 2021, I believe it was. Yeah, COVID. I spent
Hmm.
7 days in the hospital.
Wow.
Um, I spent another 3 months in oxygen treatment. I
Jeez.
experienced severe impact to my lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And in the quietness and the stillness,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I almost left here. And if I had left, am I leaving the legacy that I really wanted? Is
Yes.
everything that I'm doing so aligned with? And so that created urgency for me. So when I find myself in situations where, okay, I'm getting a little bit out of alignment, I have to chunk back up and think about the overall goal here. And that's how I create urgency for myself. I go back to remember when you were sitting there and it was quiet and the things that you said, if I had to leave here, I wanted these things accomplished and done. Then the six-figure salary I had honestly became a little bit less important to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certain thing, and I was able to have the courage and make the leap to do the things that I felt best aligned for me because I chunked up to what really, really matters. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I help people to do that because we get caught in the day-to-day little things, and maybe we need to look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Wow, that's, I hate that you went through that, but God has a way of putting us exactly where we need to be to learn the lessons he needs us to learn in that moment. So,
Mm.
as much as that was a painful moment, it was also
It
a
was
pivotal moment.
it was the right moment. I told people when I left corporate America, it was a bunch of things going wrong, and I'm saying, man, it was the right set of circumstances,
Right.
and it was like the right, like this was happening. It was character assassination. You were being demoralized. It was a toxic work environment. It was the right set of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
It was
That's
the right
right.
set of because I might not have left had it
Right.
not been that way.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you had this job that was very comfortable
Uh-huh.
and you had the ability to be complacent, you're like, it's fine, it's fine, it's
It
fine.
was that way for years.
Yeah,
It was that way
yeah.
for years. Yeah.
Well, and I think that the phrase "it's fine" is one of the most dangerous because you're not thrilled. It doesn't fulfill you, but it's fine. And
Yeah.
if you're just fine, that means you're enduring, but you're not going above and you're not actually accomplishing what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
So how is your work-life balance now?
So I definitely have better balance, but I'm a difficult boss. Like I'm my own boss, and I think I'm a
Hmm.
lot more gracious to other people than I am to myself.
Yes, I can agree with that. I do the same
Yeah.
thing.
So yeah, I think sometimes I'm hard on myself. The great thing is because I am a coach, I am well equipped on how to coach myself.
Yeah.
And so when I get into those moments, I have to sit down and I have to pause and I have to speak positive language to myself. And I have to make sure that, if you have to hear ugly things, you don't need to hear them in your own voice. Like
Right.
there's enough people in the world that'll tell you what you're not good at.
Hmm.
You don't have to be one of them, right?
Right.
So I made sure that, I'm encouraging myself. And right now I am in an awesome phase in life where I get to prioritize family and then my appointments.
Yeah.
And so I put my kids' calendars, I put the events with my husband, I put the events with my church because I lead a marriage ministry with my
Hmm.
church. I put those things in my calendar first. And then I book my clients' appointments and things like that. And so it's a wonderful space to be in to where I can see my kids off in the morning and I can see them when they come home in the daytime.
Hmm.
80% of the time. Now, there are sometimes scheduling conflicts, but for the most part. So I'm in a great place right now as it relates to balance because I'm able to understand which calendar comes first.
Yes. Good for you. Golly, I love that so much. So are
Yeah.
you still traveling a lot?
Yeah, I don't travel as much, but I
Hmm.
love to travel just for
Yeah.
business and pleasure.
Right.
And so right now I'm available for leadership coaching virtually and leadership facilitation all across the country, even internationally. If you invite me there, I'll
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do a little traveling now. I got a couple upcoming events. I'll be in New York. I'll be in California. I just got back from Oklahoma recently. And so
Yes.
I do travel to deliver leadership training.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And
So
then I
yeah,
love to travel personally. So,
yeah, same here.
yeah, I try and go somewhere every quarter.
Oh, good for you. And so have your kids caught the travel bug?
They have. My daughter's
Yeah.
actually booked to go to Korea next month.
Wow.
And it's something that has been on her list. She wants to go. She's always been fascinated with just Asian culture, period.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so now she gets to go there. So I'm excited for her that she has the confidence
Yeah.
and the savviness to say, hey, I want to go to another country. She's booked all her things. She's been doing her research. So I'm excited for her to go.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I love it when my son travels. He just recently he's had a busy summer, but he went with his school to Costa Rica, and so I'm
Ah,
like, oh my gosh, he's traveling out of the country without his parents. Like that's it felt weird to me, but I was so excited for him because like I love that willingness to go beyond your comfort zone. So even though he's with a class, I just think it's beautiful that he's out there and
yeah, and it feels good as a
traveling.
parent that you raise a child that isn't afraid because so many people never
Yeah.
leave home.
No.
They
Yeah.
never leave home. And so when you're able to raise a child that has that confidence to
Hmm.
go and explore or be
Yeah.
uncomfortable, or they're just curious enough to want to know what it's like somewhere else, it feels good.
And it is, well, and we actually just had this conversation last night because we were talking about some of his friends and how some of his friends, like he's trying to get together, he's trying to get everybody to come together for a senior spring break trip. They're all seniors in high school.
Mhm.
And he's like, I just don't understand it because some of them just want to go to Florida, which, we're right next to Florida, we're in Georgia. So he's like, they want to go to Florida. He's like, why would you not want to like leave the country and go do something? And they just don't understand like what the value is in doing that. And he's like, it just expands your mind and it gives you, an idea of what is out there outside of our little, 6 hour radius from our house. And he was like, why would you not want to explore the world?
He's ahead of his time. They'll get
Yes.
there. He got a baby steps from there.
Yeah, but he's like, he's trying to like push all of his friends, like, come on, you got to leave the country. There's so much of the world to explore. And so he's out there, the cheerleader of like international travel. So
I
I
love
love
it.
that though.
I love it.
So tell me a little bit about your relationships now with your clients. Like, how does that impact your relationships with your children and raising your children and coaching your clients? Do you feel like there's a lot? Do you feel like sometimes you end up coaching your kids, or is it kind of that same mindset?
Well, I do both.
Okay,
So as I'm teaching people how to build high accountability, high morale at work and
sure.
life, what I'm trying to do, especially for women, is
Mm-hmm.
break down that dissonance we feel where we have to do certain things at work and then certain things at home. Because
Yes.
really, the same skills are required to grow people anywhere you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And so I am a nurturer when I was in corporate America. I am a nurturer when my clients, and I'm a nurturer when it comes to my children. I, for years, I spent time trying to suppress certain parts of my personality to be in certain environments because I got to be tough here and things like that.
Sure.
It's too much wasted energy. You
Mm-hmm.
are who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and especially one of the competitive advantages we have as mothers
Yeah.
is the same things that we learn in motherhood to develop children. They work in the workforce as well.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy,
Mm-hmm.
seeking to understand, recognizing their efforts, rewarding when they achieve the goal,
Mm-hmm.
setting goals, giving role clarity. I use the same language and I do it both at work and at home. And so
Yeah.
with my clients, I'm consistently role modeling for them, but also teaching them how you don't have to be two different people. Set
Mm-hmm.
goals for your kids,
Mm-hmm.
follow up on them, recognize when they exert good effort, reward them once they achieve the goal. It's no why have a development plan for someone at work and you don't have a development plan for the child that God gave you. Like,
Yes.
no, have it for both. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I really help leaders to not create dissonance and to become more effective by streamlining and using the same process they have in both places.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of accountability for kids. I mean, like my son, he's had to be accountable his whole life. And like, there are penalties and consequences, but then there's also rewards and there's also taking initiative, and the benefits of taking initiative. Like when he wanted something. And, like for me, I'm all about you have to earn something. Like you want $400 sneakers. I'm not buying you $400 sneakers. I'll give you $100 towards sneakers. You pay the other 300. And he was 13 and he wanted these sneakers. And so I said, if you can raise the other 300, I'll give you 100. You can buy these sneakers. And he's like, how am I supposed to do that? And he's like, well, what chores can I do? And I'm like, no, can't be from me. You can't raise the money from me or your father. You have to find a way to raise the money from other people. And so he came up with his first business. And so he created a business from it. And he started like painting mailboxes in the neighborhood, pressure washing, like doing neighborhood tasks. He could ride his bike there. It was during COVID. He just had a
I
little
love
QR
it.
code. So that so people could scan it. He didn't have to see them like in person. He would do the job, send him a QR code. They would just pay him on Venmo, and then that was it. And so he raised the money. And then at the end of it, when he raised all the money that he needed, he decided then, I don't want to spend $400 on shoes.
They
That's too
always
much
do it with
money.
your
I
money,
worked
right?
too hard for it.
They always do. But such an important lesson. Kudos
It
to
is.
you because that was so great for him to experience. Like he knows how to go and make money.
Yeah. And he
And as
knows
we're
that it's
raising young
up
men, it's
to
so important.
him. Yeah. Like if I would have just handed him the $400, that would have been really easy and he would have learned nothing. Right. And so he would learn no lessons from that. He would just learn that, if I want something and I complain enough, I'll just get it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And that's not what I wanted to teach him. But he always says, like he used to say when he was younger, why are you so much harder on me? Nobody else has to do this. Everybody else, his parents will agree to do $400, like whatever. And he's had the privilege of living in a nicer area where, these kids can get a lot of what they want, but he's not that kid. And so he has
Same.
accountability. and so, and
I love
so,
it.
and I always used to say it's because I'm raising a man and they're raising boys. At 18 years old, I want you to feel that independence, that confidence, that ability to go out and take on the world without having to be raised by your spouse, by your employer, by your friends. So it's really important that I teach you these lessons now, because if I don't teach you these lessons, somebody else will have to finish raising you later.
Yep. We share the same perspective in that. So
Yes.
I love that because I'm very big on we're not raising children, you're actually raising adults.
You are
Like
raising adults. You are raising adults because at some point, if you let your child continue to be a child until they're 18, then at some point they have to be an adult and the world is going to shock them.
yeah.
And I want my child to feel confident going into situations. Like right now, he's so independent, and like there will be simple things like he's trying to do some repairs to his car. And so I put something on Facebook. I'm like, do you want me to reach out to these people? He's like, no. I'll handle it. I'll take care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
Oh man, you giving him such a gift.
Yeah, well, and that confidence to have these conversations, the confidence to go out into the world and take on what you need to take on, and to be somebody who can be a leader and not is just going to fall into being a follower because they've been a follower all their lives and not a leader.
Yep. Spot
So,
on. Perfect. I mean, so that's exactly kind of what I teach people. I help them come to those
mm-hmm,
realizations so that they
mm-hmm.
can be more impactful, at home or with their children, and then more impactful at work. Like I have people that spoon feed adults all the time.
Oh my
And
gosh,
I'm
it's
like, hey,
crazy.
you do realize that you're gonna always have to keep doing that
Right.
instead of teaching them kind of how to fish for themselves.
Yeah.
And so as a coach, that's kind of how I partner with people